Super Castlevania IV followed the success of the original NES Castlevania trilogy, releasing on both the Super Famicom and Super Nintendo in 1991, within the first year of each system's launch. Widely considered to be one of the greatest video games ever made, Super Castlevania IV is a reimagination of Simon Belmont's vampire hunt from the original NES Castlevania. Simon uses new whip abilities, such as being able to attack in 8 different directions, to progress through 11 unique stages in order to defeat Dracula. A tight-knit community of speedrunners have been attempting to beat Super Castlevania IV as fast as humanly possible since the 1990s. And in this video, I'm going to tell you that story. The history of the Super Castlevania IV any percent speedrun world record. Back in the late 1990s, there wasn't an easy way to record and share video game play via the internet. File sizes were huge and bandwidth was limited. One way to get around this was by using the record function of emulators. One of the leading SNES emulators at the time, ZSNES, had a feature called ZMV Movies. Players could record their play sessions and then output those to a ZMV file. Other users with ZSNES and a matching ROM file could then watch the gameplay back. Zophar, a prominent figure in the retro video game community, established a website called Zophar's Domain to be an archive of emulation-related information, including user-submitted ZMV files. In late 1999, a runner named FuriousPaul watched some ZMV movie files submitted by Ryan G. and Jay Payne, seen here as Narvik, of gameplay of Super Castlevania IV. Having 10 years of experience and having beaten the game over 500 times, Paul decided he could make similar movies, quote, a lot better and a lot faster and more enjoyable to watch, end quote. He set out to achieve this in December 1999. Paul first released his ZMV videos to Zophar's Domain on December 7th, 1999. 15 years later, in 2014, he chronicled a compilation of the ZSNES runs on YouTube, the first ever speedrun of Castlevania IV. The run wasn't done in a single segment. Each stage was optimally played and recorded individually.
Keep in mind, this is the first ever speedrun, full speedrun through this game that ever hit the internet, and I obviously didn't do nearly as many things as people are doing today, as far as damage boosts go, and a lot of other strategies here and there.
In the first stage, Paul does his best to efficiently progress through the level. Whipping diagonally down forward is used frequently to keep moving while attacking. He obtains the cross and works it up to a triple shot, essentially the only sub-weapon any world record speedrunner will ever use. Sub-weapons never drop randomly in Super Castlevania IV, so if runners don't die or break candles containing other sub-weapons, there is no risk of losing the cross. Paul avoids having to defeat the Pillars of Bone simply by jumping into them and damage boosting through. When Simon takes knockback damage in this game, his movement speed is actually faster than walking. Runners have used this knowledge to gain time throughout their runs, using Simon's health as a resource. And at the end of the level, routing is quickly obliterated by well-placed cross throws and whips. In the next stage, Paul evades grabs from the grasping hands and continues on, whipping down enemies that get in his way. He advances to the Medusa boss and makes quick work of it with the triple cross in only a matter of seconds. In the second half of the level, he keeps Simon in the water when the flow is moving forward, takes some damage boosts off the bone pillars, and jumps repeatedly to advance when the water flow is reversed, heading on to stage 3. Paul uses multiple crosses and his whip to take down the multiplying mudmen, taking a damage boost off the pillar at the end of the level. In the next section, he uses a fuzzbuster to boost up a ledge to save some time, and jumps and swings his way through the rest of the area. In the water-filled section, he uses a fireball to damage boost to the stairwell up. Finishing the climb to the top, he reaches the twin Orphic Vipers. Paul hurls cross after cross until both Vipers are reduced to bones. In Stage 4, numerous skeletons are destroyed on the way to Puexel, the skull boss. Puexel goes down to a flurry of crosses and whips. Paul endures a spinning room and flying Medusa heads, and continues through to a section with upward floating blocks. He navigates through to the final boss of the stage, Coronaut. Coronaut is handily defeated with the triple shot cross, and Paul is on his way to Stage 5. Stage 5 doesn't feature a boss, and Paul simply has to get through a dramatic entryway to the inner castle. He takes a skillful fireball damage boost in the first section, and then walks his way to the main gate. In Stage 6, Paul takes a couple of bat damage boosts to increase his speed, and battles his way to a room of swinging giant chandeliers. He has to wait at times for the chandeliers to swing back and forth, but finds his way across to the next area. He fights his way through axe knights, ghosts, and skeletons, pausing to whip grabbing hands. Arriving at the dancers, the couple is very quickly dispatched using crosses. In the library, Paul boosts through the bulky armored knights and falls his way through to some floating book platforms. Paul waits for opportunities to safely jump to advance to the next area. Fighting through paintings and axe knights in the museum collection, he reaches the boss, Sir Grackle. Paul is close to running out of health, but he's able to take down the night boss safely. The dungeons are a terrifying level for a casual runner with all the moving spike traps. Paul takes a few damage boosts to help through the first screen and patiently waits for openings to get through the crushers. Running low on health, he has to avoid damage in the whole section of 8-2. He finds an opening for the reappearing platform and defeats Frankenstein's monster to move on to the treasury. The treasury features skeletons that take multiple hits, and Paul anticipates many of the enemies by throwing crosses that destroy them almost as soon as they show up on the screen. In the next bit, he takes the time to whip down and destroy several bone dragons. He's able to force his way past the final bone dragon without killing it, causing a subsequent one not to spawn. The Zap Vat is bulky, but goes down to repeated upward whips until it splits into 3 smaller bats, which are taken down for good with choice cross throws. In the clock tower, Paul is able to get through the initial climb by hardly killing any enemies. And in the second climb, Paul evades the enemies while dangling from rings, surviving with only 1 hit to give. The mummy Akbadan II has random entry points it spawns in, and Paul holds down the jump button on the second spawn cycle to enable Simon to remain in place, so he can repeatedly whip and defeat the mummy without walking off the edge. After some gameplay of about 31 minutes, Paul has reached the 11th and final stage, Stage B. He builds up his heart count while keeping ahead of a bridge full of flying bats, then climbs up a collapsing tower, followed closely by a lethal gear wheel. Careful jumping gets him up to the top of the tower over moving floating platforms, and Paul arrives at the first of the 3 mini-bosses in a boss rush, Slogra. Paul crouches and whips Slogra for the first half of the fight, then continues a pattern of single whips to defeat the Dinosaur Knight. The second boss, Gaibon, is quickly defeated with well-placed crosses, and Simon continues up to death. Paul has a little trouble with flying sickles, but is able to finish the fight out with some careful jump whipping. He heads up to the final fight with Dracula, and throws cross after cross to whittle the vampire down. Dracula teleports around the arena, only being vulnerable for a short time. Every teleportation cycle takes a set amount of time, so players do their best to minimize them. After snagging some meat, the final phase begins. Paul continues throwing cross after cross, and after 2 more cycles, Dracula is destroyed. The total sum of Paul's individual level runs was 37 minutes and 24 seconds. A solid time showing the challenges of trying to beat Super Castlevania IV as fast as humanly possible. Paul continued to try and improve his ZMV individual level times through 2002. Having demonstrated the possibilities, Paul had set the initial bar high for any future runners to follow in his footsteps. In 2009, a runner named DK28 set off to complete the brutal ordeal of doing this run in a single segment, unlike Paul's run 10 years prior. And on May 5th of that year, in a run verified and documented on Speed Demo's archive, they battled their way through each level with impressive performances in the later half of the game. In Stage 7, Stage 8, Stage 9, and Stage A. After a slog through the boss fights in the final stage, DK28 collected the final orb from Dracula with a time of 39 minutes and 17 seconds, slower than Paul's sum of individual levels. But still, the first known recorded single-segment speedrun of Super Castlevania IV. The earliest known recorded full run to beat FuriousPaul's time was performed by a Japanese runner named Aldehyde about 8 months later, in January 2010. In a run posted on the Japanese video sharing website, Nico Nico, Aldehyde employs the same basic techniques Paul did in his run over 10 years earlier, using health as a resource to damage boost to increase movement speed, and using the triple shot cross to annihilate bosses. In Stage 3, Aldehyde is able to skip mudmen by jumping over them, saving some seconds. And in Stage 3-3, Aldehyde performs the eye boost, using the floating big eye to quickly damage boost over the gap to the stairway leading up. Once at the top, Aldehyde is able to anticipate the locations of the Vipers and dispatches them quickly with well-placed cross throws. In Stage 4, Aldehyde's fight with Coronaut is clean. Later, in Stage 6, Aldehyde is able to simply avoid some enemies, helping gain some time in getting to the dancers. And in Stage 8, with comfortable health in the second half of the level, he is able to take some well-placed damage boosts to get through the spike platforms. In the Treasury, instead of taking the time to fight the Bone Dragons, Aldehyde opts to charge right through them, saving time throughout the level. He climbs the clock tower and is able to take down the mummy in 2 cycles. The Stage B climb and the Slogger and Gaibon fights go largely the same as Paul's, but in Aldehyde's death fight, he is able to anticipate his location and get many additional cross hits in quickly. At Dracula, Aldehyde keeps the crosses flying and is able to take the vampire down in both phases. His final time, once the orb was collected, was 36 minutes and 3 seconds, though the time recorded on Nico Nico was listed as a 36:14. The current modern standard is to start the timer on player control of Simon, rather than at the point of pressing start to begin the game. The small improvements throughout each of the stages added up to an improvement of over a minute against Paul's segmented run. Aldehyde's run remained unbeaten for 1 year. In 2010, a runner named Funkdoc decided that he would learn to speedrun both Castlevania III and Castlevania IV. When I looked at the schedule of the first SDA marathon and saw no Castlevania III or IV, I decided then that I would learn both games and run them at next year's. Funkdoc would soon become a name that goes hand in hand with Castlevania speedruns. Funkdoc became a world record holder of Castlevania III in July 2010. For more on that story, check out my world record history video on Castlevania III. He then moved to tackle Super Castlevania IV. In January 2011, on a run verified by Speed Demo's archive, Funkdoc set a new world record. The run begins with Funkdoc optimizing damage boosts throughout Stage 1, including some controlled Medusa boosts that require Simon's whip to be out. In this Stage 3 climb, Funkdoc executes what's known as a ring glitch. By grabbing the ring from the top, Simon is able to suspend above the ring. Releasing the ring boosts Simon upwards, and he is able to get to the platform above, saving a chunk of time. Funkdoc eye boosts in Stage 3-3 just like Aldehyde, and proceeds to finish Stage 3, 4, and 5. In the later half of Stage 6, Funkdoc uses a bat to boost him up to the next level, getting dangerously close to a death, Funkdoc evades the final set of ghost dancers and evaporates the boss with crosses. He boosts his way through stage 7 and to the end of stage 8, taking one final damage boost off the breakable stairs before the disappearing blocks leading to Frankenstein's monster. Luckily, a block is there to catch Simon. Taking this damage boost is known by the community as Vegas Bridge, because sometimes the RNG of the disappearing blocks causes no floor to be there, ending the run. Taking the boost can save anywhere from 1.5 to 3.5 seconds, depending greatly on the randomness of the floor pattern. Stage 9 goes smoothly, and Funkdoc is on his way to the clock tower. Funkdoc takes the time to eliminate some enemies, but the mummy is taken down in 2 cycles. In the final stage, Funkdoc takes down Slogra, Gaibon, and Death, and gets ready for the last fight. Funkdoc handily defeats Dracula, grabbing the orb with a time of 35 minutes and 13 seconds. He would also go on to run the game for the next 3 years at AGDQ. His world record would stand for 15 months. On March 26, 2012, a runner named Bablo, the world record holder for Castlevania 1 back in 2010, made a post on SDA forums saying he was on a mission. Super Castlevania IV world record before May 15th. Bablo had trained Funkdoc for his 2011 marathon run and wanted to see what kind of times he could get himself. And on April 1st, 2012, he declared he had done it. He had beaten Funkdoc's run by 7 seconds, with a time of 35 minutes and 6 seconds. At the end of the month, on April 29th, 2012, he made another post stating he had achieved a time of 34 minutes and 41 seconds. To get to this time, he talked about doing 2 ring glitches in Stage 3, optimizing damage boosts in Stage 5, beating the mummy in 1 spawn cycle, and reducing lag on the Bat Bridge in Stage B. No video evidence exists for these runs, but Bablo would beat both of these times handily with a new run on May 3rd, 2012. In that run, Bablo attempted to execute what he discussed in his forum post. Stage 3 had favorable Mudmen RNG, enabling him to take another damage boost just before hitting the ring glitch in Block 3-2. And in Block 3-3, he tried to set up another ring glitch boost, but couldn't quite get up to the next ledge. He was able to take down the Orphic Vipers with an 8-second lead on his previous world record. In Stage 5, he kept pace by getting a good set of damage boosts before entering the interior of the castle. In the library, Bablo performs what's called the book jump. There is a 7-frame window to make the jump to the next platform on the earliest possible chance. Hitting the trick saves 3.5 seconds versus waiting for the book to cycle around. After Sir Grackle goes down, Bablo is 11 seconds up on his world record. In a later part of Stage 8-2, in a trick called the stair jump, by quickly jumping and falling through only one of the stairwells, he is able to bypass the spike traps without taking a damage boost or stopping. Vegas Bridge almost drops him into the pit, but he's able to get through to the boss and finishes maintaining his lead. A clean Stage 9 and a decent Zapfat boss fight put Bablo 17 seconds up going onto the clock tower. Bablo had some struggles climbing up through Stage A, having to slow down to kill a few enemies. Additionally, the mummy spawned in poor locations, forcing a 2-cycle. His lead was reduced to only 5 seconds. In the final stage, he tried to minimize lag on the Bat Bridge by jumping repeatedly, and climbed past the wheel to the boss rush. Arriving at Slogra, he had a greatly improved tactic. Normally, Slogra will become invulnerable after taking a hit, but by overlapping crosses when Slogra is vulnerable, extra damage can be done per cycle. The result is a fight that took Funkdoc 46 seconds was reduced to only 23. After Gaibon and Death were taken down, Bablo was up on his previous world record by a significant margin. After a 7-cycle fight with Dracula, Bablo had finished with a time of 34 minutes and 29 seconds. Bablo kept trying. A few weeks later, on May 12th, he posted again on SDA forums that he had lost a run that was 27 seconds ahead of his recent world record in the final stage and was going to take a break. He unfortunately never ended up improving on his record, which stood until almost the very end of 2012. Bablo's run marked the end of the early Castlevania IV speedrun era. The next few years would bring heated competitive rivalries vying for the top spot. Around the time that Bablo was setting the world record in April, a Japanese runner named HanageBelmont was getting started in the speedrun scene, called RTA or Real-Time Attack in Japanese. Hanage's first runs of Super Castlevania IV were done in September 2012. He continued to run until December 2012, when on the 28th, he started a run that would challenge Bablo's time. In this run, Hanage performed the ring glitch in block 3-2, but missed the eye boost in the next block. He also couldn't get enough height to land the 3-3 glitch, and by the time the Twin Vipers were defeated, Hanage was behind Bablo by over 10 seconds. Hanage stayed trailing against Bablo's world record all the way up through stage A. He was able to catch up to Bablo due to a better final climb, and was also able to secure a one-cycle Aquadon fight. Getting a one-cycle mummy requires both luck and skill. Aquadon can spawn in 4 locations, and only the far left and far right enable a one-cycle mummy fight. Going to a 2-cycle mummy fight can be devastating for a run, since the time loss can be roughly 10 seconds. But Hanage got his, and both runs were about even entering the final stage B. He then eked out a small lead with a better tower climb up to Slogra, and an improved fight gave him about a 2-second lead. The Gaibon fight was also better, boosting his lead to almost 3 seconds. And a good pattern for death added about 5 seconds to his lead, putting him over 8 up on Bablo, heading into Dracula. With a very similar Dracula, Hanage grabbed the final orb with a time of 34 minutes and 21 seconds. He had started the timer about 6 seconds early, at the beginning title screen, instead of on gaining control of Simon. With so much time to gain throughout all the levels leading up to his well-performed Stage B, this would be the first of many world records by Hanage. His next PB would come only 2 days later, on December 30th. This time, Hanage hit the eye boost in 3-3, giving him an 8-second cushion on his last record, and bailed out of the 3-3 ring glitch jump earlier than his last run, bumping his lead to 10 seconds, which he carried throughout Stage 4. Some Harpy difficulty chipped away at his lead in Stage 5, but his lead stayed mostly the same in Stages 6 through 9, with it getting as high as 12 seconds after the Zap Bat. Hanage had a better climb through Block A, and got the Aquadon spawn that would enable a one-cycle fight, but he ran out of hearts, knocking his lead down to under 9 seconds. In his fight with Slogra, Slogra charged frequently, forcing Hanage to lose a couple of seconds in the fight. His lead was down to 6 seconds. The Gaibon fight went similarly, but Death's pattern was difficult, forcing another time loss. His lead into Dracula was now only 2 seconds. But Hanage was able to save a Dracula cycle in the final fight, leading to a final time of 34 minutes and 15 seconds, a 6-second improvement. Hanage continued to try and drive his time down. He succeeded in a run on January 19th, 2013. The run features a successful 3-3 ring glitch jump leading up to the Twin Vipers. Hanage's new run stayed mostly on pace with his previous record through Stage 9, where he fell behind almost 8 seconds due to a lengthy boss fight. This time, with adequate hearts, he was able to one-cycle the mummy, putting him back even with his previous record. Hanage was able to get an almost 5-second head start from the Bat Bridge and climb of Stage B leading into the Slogger fight, but he lost 2 seconds during it. Gaibon and Death both went down on pace, leaving Hanage with about a 2-second lead walking into Dracula. And Dracula went down in the same 7 cycles as the last world record run, giving Hanage a final time of 34 minutes and 13 seconds. A few weeks later, on February 8th, Hanage struck again. He again hit the ring glitches, getting off to a 4-second head start, and he increased that lead to about 7 seconds at the end of Stage 8. He gained another 2 from the Zapspat fight, making his lead around 9 seconds. In Block A, Hanage got the right side spawn for the 1-cycle mummy, maintaining his lead. And in Block B, a 9-cycle Slogra fight saved 2 cycles from his last world record, boosting the lead up to 11 seconds. After a normal Gaibon, against Death he was able to gain 5 more seconds. Another 7-cycle Dracula fight culminated in a time of 33 minutes and 57 seconds, the world's first sub-34. A pattern of attaining the world record was emerging. Runners need to optimally keep Simon moving throughout the levels, hit time-saving damage boosts and ring glitches, and then execute in specific boss fights to keep the number of cycles down, namely the Mummy, Slogra, and Dracula. Hanage would do that once more on February 21st, 2013. In this run, he stayed slightly ahead of pace up until Block 7, where he took an opportunistic axe damage boost just before the book jump to establish a 5-second lead. By the end of Stage 7, he was almost 8 seconds ahead. In the end of the first area of Block 8-1, he had a much cleaner exit, bolstering his lead to 12 seconds. This time, his Zapfat was not quite as fast, and he lost a little bit of time in Block 9. Block A yielded another 1-cycle mummy fight, and nearly identical Slogra, Gaibon, and Death fights kept his 12-second lead intact. Hanage took an extra cycle to defeat Dracula, but his lead was enough to secure a new world record time of 33 minutes and 50 seconds. Hanage took a short break in June 2013 to complete a second loop run with a time of 36 minutes and 19 seconds, then returned to the Any% run in September. On the 27th, Hanage brought a run to Stage 4 with a 5-second lead. In Stage 6, Hanage was able to get through the giant swinging chandeliers in what runners call a 1-cycle. By swinging from this ring directly to the next set, he is able to get to the end without waiting for another pendulum swing. Going from a 2-cycle pendulum to a 1-cycle saves 4.5 seconds. He carried this lead all the way until Stage 8, where he lost a couple of seconds throughout the level. At the end of the Zap fight, he was about even. In Block A-1, Hanage was able to get across the rings using only 1 swing, giving him back a 3-second lead. But he would lose the lead with a bad mummy spawn, forcing a 2-cycle. Hanage entered the final level slightly behind. He arrived at Slogra a little ahead due to his previous run having challenges in the Block B climb, and left with a little less than a 2-second lead. The Gaibon and Death fights went smoothly, and this time, Hanage was able to regain the Dracula cycle he lost in his last record run. The final time was 33 minutes and 41 seconds. Hanage's time would stay on top for a little more than 3 months. In December 2012, a well-known Guitar Hero player named JoeDamillio watched a speedrun of Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Having never seen a speedrun before, he decided to look around for one featuring his favorite game, Castlevania IV. He discovered Funkdoc's 3730 AGDQ run from 2012 and decided he too would enter the world of speedrunning. He improved from a deathless starting time of 37:17 to a time of 35:23 on September 24th, 2013, just 3 days prior to Hanage's latest world record. Then, in November, under the tutelage of Hanage himself, Joe achieved a time of 34 minutes and 27 seconds. Joe was confident he could break Hanage's world record with new strats. In December 2013, just 1 year into his speedrunning career, Joe got very close with a time of 33 minutes and 42 seconds. Joe continued to stream his attempts to surpass Hanage late into the night. One evening, he lost a run on pace by falling through the stairs in the first screen of Stage B. Joe was so upset, he fell asleep on the floor next to his chair and started again right after waking up. The result of this dedication was that just before the year ended, Joe would achieve his own world record. On December 30th, he started a run that stayed on pace with Hanage up through Stage 4. Joe started to gain ground with a much better core knot fight strategy, ending the level with a 6-second lead. He largely held on to this lead through Block 8, where Joe increased his lead by aggressively attempting Vegas Bridge compared to Hanage's safe and conservative approach the disappearing blocks. Entering the treasury, his lead was almost 7 seconds, and with both much better movement through the level and a faster zap bat, he entered Block A 15 seconds up. Joe had the chance to pull further ahead when he got a correct spawn for a one-cycle mummy, but he couldn't quite close it out. He entered the final stage still with his 15-second lead. His stage B kept this pace through the boss fights into Dracula, and Joe was able to take down Dracula in only 6 cycles instead of Hanage's 7. The faster kill resulted in a time of 33 minutes and 21 seconds, a resounding 20-second improvement over Hanage's run. Hanage didn't let his dethroning stand for long. He came back to reclaim the record only 2.5 weeks later. On January 16, 2014, Hanage brought a run to stage 8, about 9 seconds behind Joe's. He started to catch up when he hit the 8-2 stair jump that Joe had missed, cutting his deficit down to about 3 seconds. Hanage stayed on par in stage 9, and in stage A, caught up using a new technique, the A1 ring grab. By taking a damage boost from an axe, Simon could jump up and grab the ring, saving a ring cycle. Hanage then went on to secure a 1 cycle against the mummy, taking a lead. He carried this lead all the way until Dracula, entering the chamber about 10 seconds ahead of Joe. Hanage got some unlucky Drac spawns and was only able to take a 7-cycle win, but this was still enough to take the record with a time of 33 minutes and 16 seconds. Through much of 2014, Hanage and Joe continued to battle fiercely for ownership of the Super Castlevania IV title. Only 3 days later, on January 19, 2014, Joe would bring a run very close to taking the record back. He arrived at the mummy fight with a 6-second head start, but a bad spawn forced a 2-cycle, and Joe closed out the run with a time of 33 minutes and 19 seconds, 3 seconds short. Meanwhile, Hanage moved to bolster his record. On January 28th, Hanage brought a new trick into the world record run, the 4-4 zip. Discovered in 2011 by a team of task runners including Scrimpa and Arucado, they discovered that by having Simon take damage just before getting crushed between a moving block and the ceiling would render him invincible, and thus able to enter the wall. When doing this, Simon must be crouching and facing the correct direction. If done properly, Simon goes flying at high speeds through the wall and glitch zips through most of the area, saving around 10 seconds. At the time, both Hanage and Joe had been attempting the zip and runs when they were behind, since sometimes they would zip themselves into a soft lock. He brought the run to Akbadon with about a 7-second lead, but also had bad spawn luck and only got a 2-cycle kill. This evened his time out with his previous run, but this time he was able to achieve a 6-cycle Dracula, scoring a time of 33 minutes, 11 seconds, and 560 milliseconds. And 3 days later, on the 31st of January, Hanage had another run get to the mummy on pace. Got a good spawn location, but unfortunately took a hit and was forced again to a 2-cycle. He closed out the run with a time of 33 minutes, 11 seconds, and 300 milliseconds, just barely edging out his previous run. Hanage continued to make incremental improvements on his runs in the next 2 weeks. A day later, on February 1st, he got a 33:10. Then a week later, on the 8th, he got a 33:09. And on February 16th, after missing the ring glitch in 3-3, he executed the zip, setting up a lead of about 2 seconds entering stage 5. He was able to gain 7 more seconds in block 6-2, when his previous record failed to hit this bat damage boost. In stage 8, Hanage hit a time-saving eye boost in the early part of block 8-1, but he missed the 8-2 stair boost. He also went for Vegas Bridge, and he exited the level up 3.5 seconds. The rest of the run saw Hanage getting a 2-cycle mummy, gaining a cycle on Slagra, and a matching Dracula fight, resulting in a final time of 33 minutes and 5 seconds. Sub 33 was in reach. if Hanage could get a run where he hit all of the glitches and kept his boss fight cycles down. 3 days later, on the 19th of February, he got another run to zip in Stage 4, and then established a lead of 9 seconds by getting an axe damage boost before the book jump in Stage 7. He maintained this lead until Stage A, where he extended it to a whopping 24 seconds when he was able to one cycle down the mummy. If Hanage could manage Slogger and Dracula cycles, the sub-33 would be his. But unfortunately, the Slogger fight would be disagreeable. It took him 4 additional cycles for a total of 11, reducing his lead to about 12 seconds. The Dracula fight also refused to go down easily, and it took Hanage an extra cycle. His huge lead had been chipped down to only 6 seconds, netting a final time of 32 minutes and 59 seconds, just enough to snag the sub-33. The run would be Hanage's final world record, though he remained a pillar of the Super Castlevania IV community in the years beyond. Joe struck back 4 days later, on February 23rd. He hit both ring glitches in Stage 3, then hit the zip in Block 4-4, finishing the level with a 3-second lead on Hanage's sub-33 run. He kept this lead all the way through to the end of Block A, also getting a 1-cycle mummy. With the world record on the line, Joe's nerves got the better of him, and his Slogger fight also took extra cycles. But he was able to stay even with Hanage's run. In the death fight, he was able to take him down just a little faster, going into Dracula with a 3-second lead. Since Hanage's Dracula fight needed an extra cycle, Joe had some cushion to retake the world record. And he did end up needing it. Joe's Dracula also took 7 cycles, but this was still enough for a new world record time of 32 minutes and 56 seconds. With so much time left on the table, Joe wasn't done, but it would take him more than 2 months to improve on his time. On April 29th, he executed another Stage 4 zip. By this time, runners had figured out they had to press left earlier to avoid soft locking, and were performing it more consistently. But Joe's Coronaut fight went poorly, finishing the level 5 seconds behind. According to Joe's own notes, he should have reset, but thankfully, he kept on going. Joe got through the Stage 6 chandeliers in a 1 cycle, the first one in a world record since Hanage's run from September 2013. Now ahead by almost 2 seconds, Joe evened out with his old run as he progressed through the rest of the levels to Stage A. He got the 1-cycle mummy, and arrived at the mini-boss fights just about even. But there was plenty of potential time left to save on the Slogger and Dracula fights. This time, he couldn't reduce the number of cycles on Slogger, but he did save time on the Gaibon and death fights with more efficient kills. He entered Dracula just under 5 seconds ahead. Joe again got a 7-cycle Dracula, finishing with a time of 32 minutes and 51 seconds. Joe kept pushing. 4 days later, on May 3rd, he zipped in another run, this time with a much better Coronaut finish, 8 seconds ahead of his last record. Unfortunately, this time, he couldn't get the 1-cycle chandeliers, cutting his lead down to about 4 seconds. With a better performance in the rest of Stage 6, he was back in an 8-second lead entering the library, and he held that lead through a 1-cycle mummy into Stage B. Slogger struck again, and this time it took Joe 12 cycles, 2 more than his already non-optimal previous run, and his 8-second lead was gone. He could still PB with a 6-cycle Dracula fight. And that is what Joe did. He collected the orb at 32 minutes and 48 seconds. Joe still had cycles of time left on the table. He would improve his record 2 months later, on July 4th, 2014. The run got off on the right foot with a zip and a good Coronaut, putting him 3 seconds up at the end of Stage 4. He again couldn't get the 1-cycle chandelier to go, but in Block 8-1, hit the eye boost to increase his lead to 10 seconds. Joe got the spawn for the 1-cycle mummy, but couldn't quite get it, setting him back to a 2-second lead. This time, Slogger went better, going down in 9 cycles and restoring Joe's lead to over 10 seconds. And a better death fight pushed it up to almost 15. In Dracula's final phase, Joe had to take an extra cycle, resulting in a 5-second time loss, but still was able to get a new world record time of 32 minutes and 38 seconds. Joe had set a personal goal of sub 32:20 and posted to speedrun.com stating, "At least 19 seconds left to cut until the final goal is reached." For an exciting 2 years between December 2012 and July 2014, Hanaga and Joe had collectively brought the world record of Super Castlevania IV down by almost 2 minutes. Joe's record would hold for another 4 months. FuriousPaul returned to speedrunning Castlevania IV after a 12-year hiatus in March 2014, during which he only played the game casually. Paul says on his own Castlevania IV webpage, "I always had a strong desire to be good at CB4, and to beat it quickly with as few deaths as possible, even during casual play." He would spend the next 3 years playing for an average of 5 hours per day. His first deathless speedrun attempt came on March 21st, 2014, with a time of 35 minutes and 59 seconds. He then tied Funkdoc's world record run with a time of 35:13 on March 23rd.
Whoa, my goodness gracious. I think I just tied with what's his name? Funkdoc. Oh my gosh, man.
Paul continued to steadily improve, documenting each run for whether or not it had a successful zip, and exactly how many cycles the Chandeliers, the Mummy, Slagra, and Dracula took. Paul broke the 33 barrier on July 8th with a time of 32:52, and went on to get even better times of 32:49 in August, 32:46 in September, and a 32:45 in October, right on the heels of Joe. And then on November 13th, 2014, Paul would achieve his first single segment world record. In the run, after clearing the early levels, he hit the zip and finished off Coronaut, about 10 seconds behind Joe. Paul started making up time when he hit the 1-cycle Chandeliers in Stage 6, and a little bit more with the axe damage boost before the book jump in Stage 7. By the end of Block 8, he had caught up completely. Through Block 9, he stayed neck and neck with Joe's world record run, as seen in the small overlay Paul kept in the lower left. Paul couldn't get the 1-cycle Mummy, which stayed even with Joe's 2-cycle. Slagra went down in 8 cycles, giving Paul a tiny lead, which he held through both Gaibon and Death.
Oh my god, I'm ahead of Joe. Really? I passed Joe up? Damn. Joe, you got a 7-cycle Drac, right?
With his small lead, Paul could get the world record with either a 6 or 7-cycle final fight. And Paul got it in 7.
Oh my gosh. I did it. Wow. Holy crap.
The world record was now Paul's, with a time of 32 minutes and 36 seconds. But Joe wasn't about to give up the crown so easily. 4 days later, on November 17th, Joe struck back. He jumped to an early lead just before hitting the ring glitch.
Wow, this might be the best pace I've ever had on Stage 3 too.
And finished the level with a gold, ahead with a 2.5 second lead. After nailing the zip, Joe took down Coronaut, now over 15 seconds up due to Paul's early game struggles. Joe couldn't get the 1-cycle Chandeliers and lost some time, finishing level 6 with now about an 8-second lead. And he didn't get the axe boost into the book jump. His lead was chipped down to about 5 seconds. He kept pace through to the Mummy, where he didn't get a good spawn and was forced into a 2-cycle. But the world record was still on the table with a good final stage. Joe's Slagra fight was excellent, finishing in only 7 cycles. His lead was now back up over 8 seconds. For Dracula, he only needed a 7-cycle, but he could gain another 5 seconds with a 6.
Let's do this, guys. I could get another 5 seconds. Let's do it, dude. I'm fine with the 7 cycle, honestly.
Joe had a shot at the 6 cycle, but couldn't quite close out the final phase.
I almost died. Wow. That should lose a little time. But that's a new record, guys. That should be sub 32:30. That should be it. That should be it, guys.
And it was. Joe's time was 32 minutes and 29 seconds. But this record would only stand for a week. The pair's rivalry was in full swing, each watching the other run while they tried for the record.
Yeah, I know, Joe. I never learn.
Paul had a run on November 24th, 2014 start out rocky. Compared with Joe's amazing pace in his run, Paul was already 9 seconds back. Paul would fall behind to 12 seconds after stage 4, but he would catch up significantly with a 1-cycle chandelier in stage 6. And by the end of stage 7, he was only 3 seconds behind. But Paul missed a critical boost in stage 8 and even almost died, falling back to 6 seconds. He stayed on pace until the mummy fight, where this time he got the 1 cycle. And just like that, Paul was now ahead by 3 seconds. Paul's slogger took 8 cycles, exchanging the lead once more. After death, Paul was ahead of his PB, but still behind Joe.
What's going on here? I'm way ahead of my PB going into Drac. If I get a 6-cycle Drac, I get a world record.
Paul got to the final phase of Drac in 4 cycles, but couldn't quite close the 6 cycle. Even with a 7 cycle, the final time was 32 minutes, 28 seconds, and 900 milliseconds, ever so slightly beating out Joe's 32:29. According to Paul's own description, this run beats Joe's previous world record by 0.2 of a second. This time, Paul would hold the record for a month to the day. On December 24th, Joe got a run underway, and just about a minute into the run, he incorporated a new strat into block 1-2, a ring clip. Joe uses the extension of Simon on the ring to be able to clip through the blocks. In stage 3, he had some knockbacks set him back even though he got the ring glitches and eye boost. He entered stage 4 3 seconds ahead of Paul, but behind his own previous record, which is what Joe was comparing his run to in the bottom left. A zip and a core knot later, Joe is 5 seconds up on Paul entering the next level. Joe got the 1-cycle chandelier, but some struggles in stage 7 evened out the run, with Sir Grackle even threatening to end it. After a stray hit in stage 8, Joe had to slow down to get through the last section, losing 3 more seconds. Nearing the end of stage 9, he took an extra hit on a bone dragon and had to carefully swing twice back and forth on the final ring of the Treasury Tower climb, bleeding off even more time.
Well then, that's rip.
Joe was disheartened, but continued. He was only about 2 seconds behind Paul's record, but there was still a chance by gaining cycles on either Slagra or Dracula. To keep that opportunity alive, he got the 1-cycle Akbadan. He was only able to match Paul's 8-cycle Slagra, but gained a little bit of time on Gaibon and Death. Joe entered the Dracula fight with a half a second lead.
Alright, Drac. What are you gonna do, man? A good 7-cycle can still be record.
And Joe missed the 6-cycle just by a hair.
That was almost a 6-cycle. Very close. I don't know if this is record or PB or something. I don't know.
The time ended up being both, at 32 minutes and 27 seconds. Joe confided in his victory in a phone call with Paul.
Yeah. Thanks, dude. Thank you. dude, thanks, man. You know, like, I don't want to be done tonight, so I will encode this and then try some more. But that's hoping I'm not tired by then, because I've been up for a pretty long time. Thanks, dude. Yeah, happy holiday to everybody. I mean, I hope this is a good present.
But only 6 days later, on the night of December 30th, 2014, Paul would take it back. Paul got all the early game tech, getting out in front of Joe's run. He carried it through to a nice one-cycle chandelier, and continued on through stage 8 with a 7-second lead. Unfortunately, he lost this lead in Block A when he couldn't quite get the Mummy one cycle. World record was still on the table, considering Joe had an 8-cycle Slagra and a 7-cycle Dracula. Paul saved a Slagra cycle and took back the lead, but lost some time on death.
This is very well could be a 6-cycle. Very well could be.
And Paul took the record cleanly by finishing with a 6-cycle against Dracula, finishing with a time of 32 minutes and 24 seconds.
That is a new world record right there. Oh yeah.
Nicely done, Paul.
32:25.
You got a new record?
Yeah, that's a new. That's not just a record. That's a world record.
Nice.
Wow. Damn. What a nice run that was. Very good. Yeah, 6-cycle Drac. Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Joe's gonna have a gift to wake up to when he wakes up in the morning.
Paul would remain unbeaten as the Castlevania IV champion for over 2 years, being beaten only by his own improved times during this period. Challengers did try though. On January 2nd, 2015, a runner named Just Defend completed a run after missing the 4-4 zip.
Oh no.
With a time of 32 minutes and 32 seconds, just 8 seconds shy of Paul's time.
How did that just even happen? You gotta be kidding me. Is this even real?
Just Defend was vying with the Mexican runner for the final spot in a 4-way simultaneous race scheduled at AGDQ 2015. This time secured his place in that race. And 4 days after that near dethroning run, on January 6th, 4 legendary runners came together for that race. FuriousPaul, JoeDamillio, HanageBelmont, and Just Defend, with Paul taking the victory with a time just over 33 minutes. As testament to how far the run had come, the winning race time was about 2 minutes faster than the world record when Funkdoc ran it live 2 years prior at AGDQ 2013. Paul moved on to improve his own record time in February 2015. On the 14th, Paul finished a run that traded a 1-cycle Mummy for a 10-cycle Slagra kill, again finishing Dracula in 6 cycles, to secure a new record of 32 minutes and 18 seconds. Joe also attempted to win back the record, and on a run on March 4th, he could have done it, if not for losing 12 seconds in Stage 8. The run completed with a personal best time of 32 minutes and 25 seconds, but still came up 9 seconds short of Paul. 3 days after Joe's attempt, Paul obtained a massive PB, propelled by a 1-cycle Chandelier, a 1-cycle Mummy, and 7-cycle Slagra and Dracula fights, missing the 6-cycle on Dracula by only 1 hit. The final orb was collected at a time of 32 minutes and 6 seconds, a 12-second improvement on his last record. Paul resolved to grind for a sub-32 time. To help him get there, he incorporated some new techniques. In block 1-2, Paul hit a new wall clip technique that only required one forward swing to clip through the blocks. And in block 9, a frame-perfect jump to get past the falling blocks saves a second and a half. On April 17th, Paul hit both of these new techniques in a run, and he was almost 6 seconds ahead when he finished block 9. He then hit the A1 ring grab and continued on to get a one-cycle mummy. Paul moved on to the final stage with a healthy lead of almost 7 seconds. He then got a 7-cycle on Slagra, still on pace for the sub-32. Losing a little time on death, Paul would get it if he could deliver a 6-cycle Dracula fight. But Paul couldn't quite get it. He finished with a 7-cycle and a time of 32 minutes and 5 seconds.
Yeah, 1 second faster. Man, Drac. It's not much of a world record, but hey, it's a world record. It's got all the new strats in it. All the latest strats. It's got the stage 9 spike jump, stage 1 clip, the new strat that I just practiced today that Hanage and Joe worked on. Awesome.
It would take Paul another month to achieve another world record. On May 12th, he had another run pushed through to stage 8, just about even, as you can see Paul moving nearly step for step with his overlay. After a gold stage 8, he gained about a 2-second lead, but several errors in stage 9 set him behind by almost 5. He made up a little ground with another gold in stage A, getting back to within 3.
Another gold. That is 2 golds in one run. I can PB here, actually. There's definitely a chance.
Paul beat Slogger in 8 cycles, but kept himself competitive with good Gaibon and death fights. He could still improve the world record with a fast 6-cycle fight.
I think if I get a 6-cycle Drac, I might PB. Oh, did I do it? I did it! This is a PB! Whoa!
This time, Paul was able to convert the fight in 6 cycles to get a time of 32 minutes and 3 seconds after retiming. If not for the stage 9, sub-32 would have been his. Paul would have to keep trying. Meanwhile, JoeDamillio kept working to improve his own time. He got another PB on May 20th, and despite a rough stage 3, a hard stage 9 Zap Bat, and a 2-cycle Mummy, he got a time of 32 minutes and 12 seconds, trailing behind Paul's new world record by 9 seconds. Paul took another 3 months to get a run that improved on his world record. On August 18th, Paul zipped a run through 4 and took down Coronat quickly to get a 2-second lead. He extended this to 3.5 seconds after stage 6. In stage 7, he didn't get the axe boost before the book jump, and after taking a hit against Sir Grackle, he was now slightly behind. Another stray hit against the creature knocked him back another second. But a great performance in the Treasury and against the Zap Bat put him back up over 4 seconds. After a 1-cycle Mummy, sub-32 was on the horizon.
Alright, so I can get a sub-32 here. Maybe.
It would once more come down to Paul's Slogger and Dracula cycles. Paul managed an 8-cycle Slogger fight and lost a little bit of ground on Gaibon and Death. And then he secured a 6-cycle Dracula.
Nice job. First PB in 3 months. I don't think it's a sub-32 though. It's pretty close.
It wasn't quite quick enough. The final time after frame count was 32 minutes and 1 second. Paul only had to wait 3 weeks before getting another PB. On September 6, 2015, Paul got a run out of Stage 3 with a cleaner 3-3 ring glitch, getting off to a 5-second head start. He held that lead through the Stage 4 zip in Corona. He got agreeable RNG in Stage 7, which resulted in an 8-second lead entering Stage 8. His nerves likely getting the better of him, he opted not to do the spike jump in Stage 9, resulting in his lead being cut down to about 5 seconds.
Well, most of that time lost was not doing the spike jump. I just chickened out. I was too nervous, I was too far ahead, I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. If I get a 1-cycle mummy, this is probably gonna be a sub 32.
Unfortunately, it was not to be. Paul got a fast 2-cycle, erasing his lead completely.
One cycle mummy's like 40% chance.
Paul was able to get a Slogra 7-cycle, putting him back up.
We are well on our way now to sub 32, as long as I get the 6-cycle drag. This is going to be a 6-cycle, most likely. Holy fucking shit.
And it was. Paul had obtained the world's first sub-32 Super Castlevania IV run with a time of 31 minutes, 55 seconds, and 810 milliseconds. Paul submitted the run to SDA for verification, and after 1.8 years of playing CV4 for an average of 7 hours a day, he decided to switch to another game.
This was an amazing run right here. I couldn't ask for almost anything better than this. I guess it's not over. There's still time to be saved. There's still more work to be had.
Paul took some well-earned time away from speedrunning Castlevania IV, but returned about a year later, in August 2016. In a run on the 16th, Paul started with some Mudmen RNG struggles in Stage 3. Because he took unexpected damage here, he had to skip some damage boosts later in the stage, resulting in the run being 3 seconds behind. He managed to catch up through stages 6, 7, and 8, being nearly even after arriving at the treasury. This time, Paul chose to do a safe version of the spike jump and carried a very slight lead into Stage A. Paul got the 1-cycle mummy and took a 6-second lead. Unfortunately, when he got to Stage B, Slogra took him 9 cycles, 2 cycles more than his previous record, which made the run close to even. He closed out the run with another 6-cycle drag with a final time of 31 minutes, 55 seconds, and 50 milliseconds, about 3/4 of a second of improvement. Joe, 4 days later on August 20th, improved his own time. He brought a run to Slogra with a chance to break the world record, but lost 5 seconds in the fight. To make matters worse, the extra Slogra cycles meant he didn't have enough hearts to finish off Dracula, losing an additional 11 seconds. Joe finished with a time of 32 minutes and 9 seconds, about 14 seconds off. Paul kept improving his time on the 1st of October, in his last run of the day. During it, he missed out on the second ring glitch, which kept him even with his world record run, and then moved on to get the zip in Stage 4, but fell behind about 3 seconds. For most of the run, he maintained this pace, and even though he missed the spike jump, he caught up slightly with a nicer boss fight in Stage 9, and almost completely by the end of the mummy in Stage A.
All comes down to this.
This time, Paul won with a 7-cycle Slogra against his old 9-cycle, giving him a substantial lead.
All it takes is a 6-cycle Dracula, and I will have a sub 3150, I think, maybe. I did it! Sub 3150. I think it's gonna be very close. It's gonna be very close. If it's not a sub 3150, it's gonna be a good PB.
Paul collected the final orb with a time of 31 minutes and 48 seconds.
It's over. Sub 3150 has been accomplished.
2 more runs got close to challenging Paul's run in October 2016. First, on October 7th, Joe had a run finish stage 7, 8.5 seconds ahead of the world record. But things started to come apart when Joe missed the eye boost in stage 8. Joe continued to bleed time in stages 9, A, and B. He finished with a PB of 32 minutes and 1 second, but Joe knew a 31.4x was still within his capability. Then, on October 15th, a runner named Twocat completed a very solid run, with a time of 31 minutes and 52 seconds, only 4 seconds shy of Paul. Twocat would then notably get the low percent category world record in November 2016, skills that would translate back to any percent in the future. Paul would get his final world record about 3 months later, on January 7th, 2017. In it, Paul hit the stage 1 clip, got good stage 3 Mudman RNG, and moved on to nail the ring glitches and eye boost. He entered stage 4 about 3 seconds up, then got the zip, and felled Coronaut to push to a 4-second lead. He got the 1-cycle chandeliers, and after losing some time in stages 7 and 8, he managed a gold stage 9 with one of the fastest bat fights he's ever had, to put him almost 5 seconds up. After a 1-cycle mummy, Paul entered the final stage with a 3-second lead. He stayed ahead with a 7-cycle Slagra and made a crucial decision to skip the meet before a good Gaibon fight. Death went down as normal, and Paul had about a 2-second lead heading into Dracula. Paul again defeated Dracula in 6 cycles, enough to get a new world record time of 31 minutes and 47 seconds.
A 1.5 second PB.
Just a week later, Paul and JoeDamillio met up at AGDQ 2017 to race against each other in real time, where Joe took the win with a time of 32 minutes and 39 seconds.
Hey you guys, thank you so much, and thank you to FuriousPaul and Joe here for an awesome Super Castlevania IV run. Really, really great stuff. Love watching that game all the time. Paul, tell me a bit, how long have you been running this game?
I started running Castlevania IV in 1999.
99? That's long before speedruns were really even a thing.
I know. I recorded my runs through an emulator, and I uploaded them to Zofer.net. Mm-hmm. It's an old site. I think it still exists, actually. And I spent some time on that back then from 1999 through 2002 until the first task came out in like 2003 or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was 03.
I mean, like, because now you see these games and you say, wow, speedrunning that game looks so fun. Maybe I could speedrun it too. But you just saw this game. There was no like kind of online presence for something like speedrunning.
There was nothing out there at the time.
So it's just like, what made you see this game and say, I want to see just how far I can push this game?
I don't know, man. It's Castlevania IV. It's just, I kind of got connected with it and just started running it, and it was just addicting.
Got it. I could see that. Joe, how about you? How did you get into speedrunning the game?
Actually, okay, let's go back, because this game got me started with speedrunning in general. So it was towards the end of 2012. I was just browsing YouTube, like some Guitar Hero probably, because I was still into that at that time. And I look in the recommended video bars, and Koreshi has this Super Ghouls and Ghosts speedrun, and like that was the game. I was just like, someone beat this game? Like what? Really?
Oh yeah, I've seen that one too.
And so I watched that, and I was just like blown away. So of course, the first thing I looked at was Super Castlevania IV, because I've loved that game since I was little. So I guess I like morphed into it. I guess I didn't straight look into it and was like, all right, I'm gonna do the best I can in this. It was just like, I just want to keep playing this game over and over, and like speedrunning just put like the cherry on top, I guess, to like just making the game so replayable.
Got it.
And just great all the time.
Paul, you actually set, I mean, this is a really competitive game. Any sort of record set is a huge deal and very few and far between. And Paul, you actually set it most recently less than a week ago. What was it like setting a record so soon before you're actually going to be doing a run at HEDQ?
You've had it for like 2 years now, haven't you? Something like that.
I don't know how to answer that. PBs just happen every now and then, and
got it. Fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't know how to.
It didn't really affect just like the timing of HEDQ.
Really affect
okay,
me, no.
got it.
Paul set a goal for himself to get a sub 31:45 with absolutely no knockbacks, but he moved on to Castlevania 1 in the second half of 2017, opening the doorway for other runners to finally take back the top position on the leaderboard. JoeDamillio, having been constantly on Paul's tail, would be the first to overtake him. Joe got a very close PB of 31 minutes and 48 seconds in July 2017, losing the world record only to RNG from Harpies in Stage 5 and a 2-cycle Mummy in Stage A. Joe knew his execution was enough to get him at least the world record, and maybe even to a 3130X and beyond. He proved himself right a month later on August 3rd. In this run, Joe finished Stage 4 with a 4.5 second lead and increased it to over 6 seconds with a clean Stage 5. He got the axe boost before the book jump in Stage 7, and just like that, he was up 7 seconds on the world record. But a bad zap bat cut him back down to only a 2-second lead. This time, Joe was able to get the 1-cycle Mummy, and the lead was back up to 5 seconds. His Stage B climb gained a little bit of time, and then Joe managed an 8-cycle Slogger fight. His lead was about 6 seconds after death. A 6-cycle Dracula fight sealed the deal. Joe grabbed the final orb with a time of 31 minutes and 40 seconds. His record would stand for over 5 months. Next up would be Twocat. Twocat had gotten an any percent time of 31:43 in November 2017, and tried to improve upon it in January 2018. On the 13th, Twocat started a run with a stumble, not getting the block clip in Stage 1. He stayed behind for much of the run, only catching up due to Joe's suboptimal bat fight in Stage 9. And Twocat was able to take the lead for good when he got a 7-cycle Slogra as opposed to Joe's 8. Twocat was able to close out with a 6-cycle Dracula and finished with a time of 31 minutes and 37 seconds, breaking the 31:40 barrier for the first time ever. Twocat improved 3 more times through 2018, gaining slightly each time. The first was on March 17th, staying slightly ahead of pace for most of the run, finishing with a time of 31 minutes, 36 seconds, and 300 milliseconds. The second happened on April 18th, where Twocat improved their time by about 12 frames, or about 0.2 of a second, to a 31:36 and 100 milliseconds.
Lol.
And the third was on August 27th. This run had the potential to be a much bigger improvement, with a lead of over 7 seconds after Stage A. But an extra 8th cycle on Slogra chipped Twocat's lead down to only about 2 seconds, and Twocat finished with a time of 31 minutes and 35 seconds. Twocat held the top spot for a total of almost 9 months, when JoeDamillio came storming back in a run on October 7th, 2018. Racing against his PB splits of 31:37 from March 2018, just 2 seconds behind Twocat's most recent world record, Joe kept an even pace with his old run through Stage 6. He was able to build up a couple of seconds of lead finishing up Stage 7. And since most of his potential time save was at the end of the run, Joe felt very good being ahead here. He stayed 2 seconds ahead entering the treasury, but lost that lead going into and fighting the Zap Bat. In the early part of Stage A, Joe throws a cross during the first climb, despawning some of the gear teeth here. This reduces lag for the ring swing, saving up to a second. Later in the level, Joe utilizes a ring glitch to propel Simon up faster. Joe kept pace by getting a dangerous 1 cycle against Akmadon, and tried to calm his nerves for Stage B. Getting excellent RNG patterns for both the moving blocks and the enemy wandering, Joe was able to hit a couple of ring glitches in the tower climb, giving him almost a 3-second lead against his PB. An 8-cycle Slogra due to an unfortunate charge kept him even, but on pace for bopping Twocat's world record. Gaibon and Death went down without major issues, and Joe headed into Dracula. Joe is almost able to take down Dracula in 5 cycles, but takes some stray hits, forcing him into a 6-cycle win, 1 cycle faster than his last PB.
Well, it's a new record. I almost got a 5-cycle though. Alright. I think this might be a 30 flat. Or 31. I don't know. I'm just shaking what? Are you serious, dude?
The final time was 31 minutes and 29 seconds, a 6-second improvement to the world record.
Sub 31:30 in the bag. Now for sub 31:25. That's... all I gotta say is good luck to me. Good luck to anybody bringing this down more. It can, and I'm 95% sure it'll happen. If this was like a 31:27 or a 26, maybe I would go 50-50 on like this run might sit for a long time. But a mid 31:20 or 31:29, no. It's gonna come down. I can do it, Twocat can do it.
This time Joe held the record for 11 months. JC, taking a break from grabbing world records in Castlevania II and Castlevania III, turned his attention towards Super Castlevania IV in 2019. For more details about JC's experiences in those games, be sure to check out my other world record history videos. His first CV4 run finished with a time of 33 minutes and 28 seconds in May 2019, and he steadily improved in the next few months, getting to a 31:39 in August. JC had worked on some new strats to help aid him in his quest to beat Joe's time. In Stage 3, he had learned all of the potential Mudmen movements and developed counter strategies for each of them. He lost a little bit of time when he made a mistake on the Orphic Vipers, but finished even with Joe. After zipping, JC tried to defeat Coronat by using a technique called whip canceling, where Simon is able to strike with the whip more rapidly. Originally worked on by Hanage way back in 2014, normally the whip has a recovery time of 17 frames. But by either quickly comboing into a different direction limp whip, or in the case of an up diagonal whip, simply releasing the D-pad, Simon can recover faster to strike again. This is especially important on Dracula, where by using whip cancels, getting a 6 cycle is more likely to happen, and even a win in 5 cycles is possible, as JC demonstrates here.
I'll try it with this, even though I got that side spawn. Okay, this has a shot. This has a shot. Let's see. 1502 and CB1. Nice. Congrats. Oh. I think that was it. I'm pretty sure that was the 5 cycle.
JC, inspired by Twocat's incorporation of the technique in low percent runs in 2016, adopted the strategy in his own runs. But JC couldn't quite get the fight to go right, and he finished Stage 4 2 seconds down. He lost some more time moving through Stages 6 and 7, but employed whip cancels to take down Sir Grackle quickly. An aggressive Vegas bridge got him a second back in Stage 8. JC used whip cancels again to take down the Zap Bat and got back to even. He used the cross throw to get rid of the gear teeth lag and worked in 2 ring glitches to climb through the rest of Stage A, then clutched the 1 cycle mummy, putting him ahead for the first time by a little over 2 seconds. JC usually turns off his timer when he is on a PB pace, and so he turns it off here. Climbing through the Stage B tower, he hits the ring glitches, but gets some bad block patterns before heading into the boss rush. JC gets a 6-cycle Slogra, boosting his lead to over 5 seconds. He was nervous before, but after a moment of shock, he continues on up, and Gaibon and Death are taken down. JC uses whip cancels to fight through the first 4 cycles of Dracula. A bad spawn makes it look like he's going to get a 7th cycle, but a really good Dracula spawn location on the next cycle lets him recover.
I clutched the 6th cycle! That spawn was amazing. That was a 6th cycle, right? Was that a 6 or 7? Oh my god. Oh my god.
The final time was 31 minutes and 25 seconds, a 4-second improvement on Joe. It takes a moment for JC to turn back on his monitor to see his new world record time, and his reaction is priceless.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh! Ah!
JC's record stood for 1 year and 10 months, during which he decided to take a break to speedrun other games. In 2021, 2 things brought JC back to Super Castlevania IV. The first was a massive tournament held in the months of March through June, where a wide field of 40 Castlevania IV speedrunners came together to compete. And the second was a new piece of tech discovered by a runner named RichterShade. In Stage 4-4, by precisely jumping up into the closing gap, Simon is able to start a zip much earlier than the previous bat setup. The strat was dubbed Richter Zip after its founder, and saves 4 seconds from the original zip method. Having played in many matches in the tournament, and armed with this new zip technique, JC started a run on July 8th, 2021.
Oh shit, Pikachu. Good luck on the Pikachu.
On the climb in 3-2 before the ring glitch, JC managed his health by taking a damage boost off of a fireball, instead of off the statue. It was important to maximize his damage boost throughout the level, and he arrives at the Vipers with exactly 1 HP. He got out of Stage 3 just ahead of his world record. And in Stage 4, he executed the new Richter Zip, spitting him out with the proper timing to exactly get through the crushers.
And thank you. Okay, we have a run. We have the beginning of a run.
He took down Coronaut and was able to grab a very high orb, now putting him a whopping 9.5 seconds ahead. He gained 2.5 seconds in Stage 6, and even more by not taking bad hits in Stage 7. He was now an astonishing 15 seconds ahead of his world record. He held this lead through Stage 8, and though nerves were starting to get to him, he kept the lead of 13 seconds after the Zap Bat.
I threw it the wrong way! Alright. Whatever happens. Whatever happens. This run is going down in history.
JC had some struggles in the climb and block A1, taking some bad knockbacks and some missed jumps. But he was able to steady himself, and he hit his double ring glitch in the climb. By the time he got to the boss, he had lost about 6 seconds.
Okay, I can do it with a 2 cycle.
He might have cursed himself by saying that, but he was still able to get the 1 cycle, and was on his way to the final stage with around a 7-second lead. He was able to match his world record 6-cycle Slogger fight, and kept the pace through Gaibon and Death.
Full attention.
The first 4 cycles of Dracula went extremely well using whip cancels, entering the last phase of Dracula's health at just 3 bars. But with nerves getting the best of him, he couldn't get Simon down on the ground to whip cancel.
Ah, the choke! That's okay, I don't think I would have gotten a 5 cycle anyway. I was 3 hits away. Okay. Is that a world record? I did lose some time in the stair tower. I think it is. And if it is, I am actually done. This is a world record worthy of being one. This is a world record.
JC's new world record time was 31 minutes and 18 seconds, the first ever sub 31:20. his run would stand tall for over 4 years. A runner named ppchan, who also goes by Pepe, and is the standing world record holder for Phantasy Star 4, had run Castlevania IV as far back as 2019, with a time of around 33 minutes. In 2024, Pepe returned to Castlevania IV to make a push for sub 32 and beyond. By January 26th, he had improved to a time of 32:29, and ppchan continued to steadily improve throughout 2024 and early 2025, getting to a time of 31 minutes and 29 seconds. In the years between 2021 and 2025, 2 new techniques had been developed, and Pepe brought one of them to help catch up to JC's time. In a run on July 27, 2025, ppchan was even entering Stage 3. But instead of dropping down to engage the Mudmen, ppchan did 2 quick jumps and a carefully timed whip strike, causing Simon to zip through the slope ground ahead to the spike pit. Developed by Scrimpa through task studies in June 2024, by controlling the camera position and then landing on slope tiles, Simon is propelled forward through the stage. In doing what the community called the 3-1 mini-zip, ppchan had gotten a lead of 3 seconds against JC's record. But he lost a second of that lead by the end of the stage. And even though he hit a slightly modified version of the Richter zip, he lost another second in Stage 4. He had evened out by the time he finished Stage 6. ppchan's run stayed within a second up until Stage 9, but would have the opportunity to take the lead where JC's 2021 run had faltered. He was able to gain a second back on the Zap Bat, and in Stage A, ppchan nervously was able to close out the 1-cycle mummy. He entered Stage B with a 3-second lead. He lost some time in the climb, and while he was able to get a 6-cycle Slogger kill, he entered Gaibon just about even with the world record. He was neck and neck in his Gaibon fight with JC, but was able to get a second ahead with a slightly faster death kill. Pepe would have the world record with a 6-cycle or better Dracula win. Also utilizing whip cancels, ppchan was able to get to the final phase in 4 cycles, and though he didn't get close to a 5-cycle, 6 cycles was enough to clutch the record. Breathlessly, ppchan grabbed the orb with a final time of 31 minutes and 17 seconds, breaking the 4-year standing world record.
I got the last cycle. I was almost going to miss it.
ppchan's run stayed on top for about a month. After a long hiatus, JoeDamillio returned to Speedrun Castlevania IV in November 2023. He got his first major PB since April 2020 in February of 2024, knocking 3 seconds off of his time to a 31:26. He continued to drive it down to 31:21 in May 2024 and to 31:20 using the 3-1 mini-zip in February 2025. And on August 20th, 2025, on his 128th day of streaming Super Castlevania IV speedrun attempts since returning, Joe set off on a run to bring the other new recently developed strategy into a world record run. Just before he started, his mother wished him good luck.
Hey, Mom. Yeah.
During the run, Joe couldn't get the mini-zip to hit in Stage 3-1, but Joe continued on to Stage 4 and the scrolling block area. In the 4 years since Richter Zip's discovery, a pair of runners, D&D Nat 21 and Kung Fu Crickets, had been playing around with what they called the top zip. The goal was to control the camera while Simon was in zip state to zip farther and closer to the end of the stage. The techniques were refined by a runner named DC Ripa, who added a 5-jump sequence method to the zip in an attempt to make it more replicable and achievable in live runs. The new combined strat was called Ripa-Zip. Up until early 2025, DC Ripa had been the only runner to successfully pull off the zip. That is until Joe incorporated it. Since July 2025, Joe had been aggressively attempting to include the zip into his runs, which saved 5.5 seconds over the Richter zip. The result was this. Joe arrived at Coronat ahead of ppchan's world record and finished the stage now with a 4-second lead. He was able to widen his gap to 4.5 seconds heading into stage 6. But a mistake on the chandeliers forced him into a 2-cycle, erasing the lead. Joe then stayed on even pace with the world record all the way into stage A, where a bad knockback set him back a couple of seconds. He had an uphill battle catching up in stage B, but with a better tower climb and a matching 6-cycle slogger fight using ppchan's own techniques,
shout out to ppchan,
he was now just a few steps ahead. A clean Gaibon and death put Joe entering Dracula 2 seconds up on the world record. And a 6-cycle Dracula gave Joe a final time of 31 minutes and 15 seconds.
A new record though. GG.
But there was still a lot of time left on the table, and Joe wasn't happy with this time.
The run that I want is like at least a 31.05. At least an 05. At the very, very, very least a sub 31.10. But thank you very much, Craft Punk, for the gift sub to Amber24. When was the last time I had this record? Oh god. I don't remember on hand. My guess would be like 2018 or something.
He was exactly right. Joe had not held the record since October 2018. His new record stood for about a month. He himself would beat his own record on his 148th day of streaming since his return on September 21st, 2025. In this run, he hit the 3-1 mini-zip, getting him off to a strong 6-second lead after finishing the Vipers. And in stage 4, he successfully executed the Rip-a-Zip and crumbled Coronat to maintain a 5-second lead. A couple of unlucky Harpy spawns in stage 5 knocked his lead back to about 3 seconds.
I definitely wouldn't call it good now.
He made some time back by hitting the 1-cycle chandeliers, boosting his lead back to over 7 seconds. And with good movement through the rest of stage 6, he finished with over a 9-second lead. He kept this lead at 7 seconds after stage 7. Despite good movement and a fortunate Vegas bridge, a little more of his lead bled away in stage 8 due to the boss fight, and now his lead was down to just over 6 seconds.
Terrible fight, and the early orb didn't save me.
In stage 9, he couldn't get the spike jump, and had to revert to an older, slower strat, and took a knockback leading up to the zap bat. When the jewels had crumbled, Joe's lead was down to 4 seconds. Joe had the opportunity to make back some of that lead in stage A, but took a similar knockback in the initial climb, just like his last run. He steadied himself and was able to finish the second part of the climb, and even though he took a hit, to clutch a 1-cycle mummy, keeping his lead at almost 5 seconds.
I know I keep saying this run sucks, and it does, but fucking heart's still pounding.
The run was far from over, as Joe still had to get through the final boss rush, minimizing the Slogger and Dracula cycles. This time, it took Joe 7 cycles on Slogger instead of 6, cutting his lead down to just over a second. Joe now needed a 6-cycle Dracula fight.
I can't see the time, but pretty sure it's a new record, right? Yeah! Yep, there it is. What was it? A 1-second PB. Nice. Jesus.
The final time was 31 minutes and 14 seconds. With time still left to save from the spike jump, not taking knockback hits, and losing a Slogger cycle, a 31 OX was still very possible.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep playing, ideally, until I reach my final goal.
Joe's new record stood for a little more than a month, until ppchan came back to retake the title on November 2nd, 2025. ppchan hit the 1-2 block clip and smoothly damage boosted through stages 1 and 2. In stage 3, he couldn't get the jumps right, and so he continued past the 3-1 mini-zip. But then he hit the ring glitches to help propel him up in block 3-2. Next, he used the eye to boost to the stairs and grabbed the ring glitch to climb in block 3-3. Pepe was 7 seconds behind Joe at this point, but he forged on to perform his own unique version of the top zip in stage 4. ppchan's new zip saved 3 seconds over Rippa's. He then caught up to get within 1.5 seconds of Joe's run when reaching the chandeliers, and leapt through them in the 1-cycle pattern, just barely catching the foothold. In stage 7, he caught a low axe from the knight to boost him over to the book jump. In stage 8, ppchan was a hair too late getting to this crusher, and had to wait for it to come back down again. As a result, he couldn't catch the eye boost up out of the area. This put him about 8 seconds behind Joe. He hit the stair jump and used his health to damage boost his way over Vegas Bridge. ppchan had the opportunity to catch up in stage 9. Where Joe had struggled with the Zap Bat, ppchan was able to get a quicker kill, getting him back within 5 seconds. And in stage A, ppchan navigated through the initial climb, reducing lag by removing the gear teeth and avoiding time-losing knockbacks. In the second climb, ppchan used multiple ring glitches to get up to the mummy fight, which he dispatched in 1 cycle. His performance in the clock tower had put him back within 2 seconds of Joe. ppchan lost a little bit of time in his final tower climb, and he arrived at Slagra down 4 seconds. ppchan also finished Slagra in 7 cycles, and kept pace with his Skyban and his death fights. He was down 5 seconds heading into Dracula. He could only take the world record with a 5 cycle. Through a combination of lucky spawns and extremely skillful whip cancels, Pepe had scored the first 5-cycle Dracula fight in a world record. The final orb was collected with a time of 31 minutes and 13 seconds, just barely squeaking by Joe's time. The victory was shared on the Castlevania Speedrun Discord. ppchan noted that his margin for victory for both his world records was less than a second. This time, it was an even smaller time difference than when he broke JC's 4-year-old record. ppchan himself commented that it would be fun guessing how long this world record would last. The answer was about 3 months. On February 15, 2026, during JoeDamillio's 187th day of streaming since returning to Super Castlevania IV, Joe began a run that would take back the top spot over ppchan's time. Joe damage boosted his way to grab the cross in stage 1 and hit the 1-2 block clip. He used the Medusas for damage boosts and then obliterated Rodane. Evading the grasping hands in stage 2, Joe made his way to Medusa and took her down. And in stage 3, Joe nailed the 3-1 mini-zip, then advanced through the waterfall to ascend using the 3-2 ring clip. He boosted using the eye in 3-3, and then hit the 3-3 ring clip, reaching the Vipers with exactly 1 HP, and defeating them with well-placed crosses. Joe was about 6 seconds ahead of the world record entering stage 4, but took a knockback from a skeleton before Puexel, setting his lead back to under 3. Joe expertly executed the top zip. and then reduced Coronaut to rubble. His Stage 5 was free from Harpy RNG, and in Stage 6, he got his one-cycle chandeliers. He had to do some quick doublebacks to avoid some ghost couples, but had no problems besting Fred Askare and Paul Abgul, staying on pace. In Stage 7, Joe got the lucky axe boost before hitting the book jump, and Sir Grackle was whipped and crossed down. In the dungeons, Joe got the 8-1 eye boost and the 8-2 stair jump. His damage boost went smoothly to get him to a successful Vegas bridge, and after the creature went down, Joe's lead was back up to almost 9 seconds. Next, Joe gracefully hopped through the jewels of Stage 9, then performed the spike jump and headed up to the Zap Bat. He bypassed the meat just before the fight, and when it was over, his lead was at a solid 8 seconds. In the first part of Stage A, Joe jumped past the enemies, executing the cross throw that removed the gear teeth lag. And in the second climb of Stage A, Joe used the 2 ring glitches to propel his way up to the face of the clock tower. Aquadon spawned on the right side and fell apart in 1 cycle. With another partial gold in Stage A, his lead was back up to almost 9 seconds. Joe had a clean bat bridge and made the final climb of Stage B, hitting the ring glitches here and here to help him up. He arrived at Slogra with almost a 12-second lead on the world record, and a slightly better 7-cycle Slogra than ppchan's increased that lead to just over 12 seconds. His Gaibon fight maintained his pace, and his death fight gained another second. Joe was entering Dracula with over a 13-second lead. If he could match ppchan's 5-cycle, then sub 31 was on the table. Joe paced back and forth in Dracula's chamber, setting up his timing for the first cross throws. He took some knockback hits during the fight, and while he was able to get to the final phase in 4 cycles, Dracula still had 5 bars of health. The 5-cycle was unlikely. He was able to finish the fight in 6 cycles, and Joe's expression of relief is real. He grabbed the orb with a final amazing time of 31 minutes and 5 seconds. And that's where the Super Castlevania IV world record stands today. As of the making of this video, in March 2026, it has stood for about a month. The Super Castlevania IV community is extremely collaborative and welcoming, sharing their learnings and strategies, and seemingly always working on new discoveries. One such pillar of the community is Frush, a 10-year veteran speedrunner and winner of the 2021 tournament that brought JC back to the game. Frush most recently got a PB time of 31 minutes and 13 seconds on February 19th, just 4 days after Joe's world record, and improved it to 31 minutes and 12 seconds on March 13th. He will definitely be a serious contender for the world record in the years to come. The community has also been working on making a consistent method for a 3-1 full cave zip, demonstrated here by DC Ripa in October 2025, which could save even more time than the 3-1 mini zip. It's only a matter of time before some runner is able to achieve a sub 31 time.
Yep, sub 31 though. Sub 31 will hopefully be next. I don't think this category will ever die though. Even if I end up getting like a 30. I mean, I just assume I'm not getting anything 30, 55 or below. But if I get like a 56, 57, 58, 59, it'll definitely be beatable. Especially if someone like JC comes back. You know how that fucking dude grinds. I put him on my Mount Rushmore of speedrunning with no second thought for a reason. Yeah, I know. He was already capable of sub 3110 before these zips were discovered. The mini zip in 3.1 and the spetter zip in stage 4. So someone like him, I mean, you still can't root out ppchan, Vrush. Twocat, especially Twocat if he keeps going. Those whip cancels are dangerous.
Super Castlevania IV has had a long history of people playing fast. From back in the late 1990s of compiling individual level runs using an emulator, to now requiring optimized routing and damage boost movement, minimizing boss fight times and cycles, and extremely precise and technical strategies, some that even caused Simon to break the laws of game physics. Hey, thanks for making it so far in the video! If you enjoyed watching, it would mean so much to me if you would like, subscribe, share with a friend, or comment below. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers on this channel. If I can hit that milestone, I'll be sure to keep making more speedrun history videos. Leave a comment if you have a game or a category that you'd like to see me cover in a future world record history video. This has been the world record history of Super Castlevania IV's Any % category. And thank you for watching.
Super Nintendo. And some famous games that comes with it. Super Castlevania. Okay, you got that in? And Super Castlevania. It's a good game.